Hello, and welcome to this brief instruction clip for members of the FWO PhD Fellowship panels. In this clip, we will discuss the ins and outs of writing internal evaluation reports, which is a central task of each and every FWO panel member. Every FWO panel member has to write internal evaluation reports, which are the basic reviews of the applications submitted to your panel. It is very important that you respect the deadline by which these reports should be submitted, as the next steps of the evaluation procedure will be based on these reports. FWO offers two types of PhD fellowships. One type is oriented towards junior researchers wishing to pursue purely curiosity-driven research, called the PhD Fellowship Fundamental Research. With the second type, FWO supports early career researchers wishing to perform application-driven basic research. This fellowship is called the PhD Fellowship Strategic Basic Research. This video covers the evaluation process of both types of PhD fellowships, as the role of the internal reviewer is very similar in both procedures. The main difference between the two is that for the PhD Fellowship's Strategic Basic Research, there is an additional evaluation criterion, namely the application potential. In case you are a member of a panel for fundamental research, please ignore the instructions on this additional criterion. The internal review report is a written evaluation of the project proposal. For each proposal, we expect you to assess either 2 or 3 main evaluation criteria, namely the competences of the candidate, the quality of the project proposal, and for the PhD Fellowship's Strategic Basic Research, additionally the application potential. For the PhD Fellowship's Fundamental Research, the 2 main criteria have equal weight in the final evaluation of the application. For the PhD Fellowship's Strategic Basic Research, the distribution of the weights amongst the candidate, project and application potential is 50%, 30% and 20% respectively. For the evaluation of the project proposal, you will be asked to assess 2 sub-criteria: the extent to which the project will contribute to the state of the art on the one hand, and the quality of the research approach and feasibility on the other. For both of these sub-criteria, you should describe the strengths and weaknesses, and if possible, make suggestions for how this may be improved. If you participate in a strategic basic research panel, then an additional criterion needs to be evaluated. This concerns the application potential of the research that is being proposed. Strategic basic research is supposed to start with a specific socioeconomic use of the research findings in mind. We therefore refer to it as application-oriented research. 2 sub-criteria apply here. The first criterion relates to the relevance of the proposed research to the intended application. Here you are expected to assess whether there is indeed a potential for the research to lead to the intended applications in the long term. The second sub-criteria is the envisaged impact. Here you need to evaluate to what extent the intended applications are described in sufficiently concrete terms. For example, is it clear what products or services are expected to be developed with the new basic knowledge? And have concrete sectors been identified for which the generated knowledge is relevant? For evaluating the candidate, please be aware that the evaluation criteria differ between the pre-selection phase and the interview phase of the evaluation procedure. In this clip, we only focus on the criteria related to the pre-selection phase. In this phase, you need to assess the applicant's study results as well as their competences and motivation. To assess the candidates uniformly across all relevant sub-criteria, the application form contains several fields that probe the 2 components of the candidate criterion. Regarding their study results, we expect candidates to provide information on their relative position of their most recent degree that is relevant for their PhD proposal. For some applicants, this will be their master's degree, for which they are asked to express their overall score as a percentile. Reference to these percentiles can be found in the score grid. In case the applicant is still in the process of finishing the master's degree, then this percentile information should be provided based on the bachelor's degree. Besides the percentile information, applicants are also requested to provide a narrative to position their study results in a broader perspective. They could, for example, explain how their social situation has affected their results, point out specific academic achievements that highlight their suitability for the PhD fellowship, such as the outcome of their master's thesis, for example. In case an applicant is still finishing the master's degree, then they could, for example, also provide information on achievements in the final year of study. Percentile information is provided systematically for all Flemish degrees. As not all applicants have graduated from a Flemish university, they may not be able to provide this very specific information. These applicants are instructed to provide as much information as possible in the narrative section of the study results. Regarding the candidate's competences and motivation, we ask for a motivation statement. In this statement, the applicant should discuss their motivation to do research, their research interests, and their current scientific background. Skills and competences, including those they have already developed as well as those they plan on further developing, can also be described in this section of the application form. The motivation statement should also contain information on the scientific experience and competences already acquired. These should be clearly evidenced, for example by their master's thesis, scientific awards, specific publications, or other forms of scientific output that may be relevant to show the acquired skills. Furthermore, a clearly delineated vision on how to widen and deepen their research skills should be part of this section as well. For the assessment of the candidate, you should also take into account FWO's policy on broadening the evaluation of scientific accomplishments. Since we moved away from the traditional evaluation of academic output that considered only scientific publications as indicators, we therefore now ask all evaluators to consider all relevant forms of scientific and research-related societal achievements when assessing the candidate. Experience outside the academic sector, where research output often takes other forms, should also be taken into account in the evaluation. As explained earlier, the application form is designed to allow researchers to detail their more diverse profile. The scoring grid, moreover, specifies these elements as possible indicators as well. As mentioned earlier, we ask you to consider candidate seniority and their specific personal context when assessing them. Thus, it may be relevant to adjust your assessment for applicants who are, for example, already working as a researcher versus those who are in the final year of their master's studies. Likewise, career breaks or a specific element of a candidate's personal context may also warrant you to adjust your expectations. Through the e-portal, you access the evaluation template for each application for which you are internal evaluator. For the disciplinary panels, the template contains 4 or 6 text fields depending on the type of fellowship panel you are in. There is one field for each subcriterion, each also containing a box in which to enter a score for each subcriterion. For the specific interdisciplinary panel, there's a separate instructional video that you can consult. For each subcriterion, you should enter in the text box the main strengths and weaknesses, followed by the main conclusions regarding this criterion and any suggestions for improvement. You should then assign a score that aligns with your written assessment as well as with the descriptors in the scoring grid. While writing the internal evaluation report, we expect you to use the pre-selection score grid, which is available in your e-portal. The score grid contains specific descriptors for each subcriterion and will guide you in assigning the appropriate score between 0, unacceptable, and 7, outstanding. To assign a score, we advise you to proceed as follows. For each criterion, start reading the descriptors below the scoring range of 4-5 and verify that the project proposal meets these requirements. Only when a proposal meets all descriptors can it be assigned a score of 4 or higher. If it does not meet these conditions, then check whether the descriptors _2-3 may be applicable. If not, then a lower score can be chosen following the same principles. If the descriptors under 4.5 are fully applicable to the project, then you should further check whether the descriptors in the higher score category are fully applicable. If so, then a score within this category can be chosen. If not all conditions within the 6-7 category are fully met, but at least partially met, then you can still differentiate within the 4.5 category by choosing a score of 5. This includes this video. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact your account administrator. Many thanks for your interest in the FWO, and for now, goodbye.